Greetings, Pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. Today we're going to be going over some really cool stuff with Unity, so let's get that loading. Shorter episode for you guys today, but this is some important information, so pay attention. So today we're going to go over how to set up our project in Unity. And by project, I mean we're to set up the folders inside of our scene to let us organize all of our assets. So I'm going to do this completely from scratch with you guys. So let's say new project. We're going to call this Pilgrimage Setup. There you go, we can say create project, and let's wait a moment. And there we are. So as you can see, this is a completely blank scene, pardon me. We have only a light and a camera, and there's nothing around, nothing in our hierarchy, and nothing here. Yeah, that was odd. Okay, nothing here. So what we're gonna do is start organizing everything before we even start creating anything. So right here in the assets, let's go ahead and right click, say create folder. Now this is just like Windows, you can create as many folders as you like. So our first folder we're going to call scenes, just like that. Right click, create another one, and we're going to call this scripts. And I'm just going to create all of them, and then I'll explain each one and explain that we're going to do some nesting in a moment here. Let's do our UI, create folder, materials, textures, models themselves, can't forget about those, and audio. That's all we're going to create for right now. So now that we have all of our folders here, let's create a couple sample example files and show you how we're going to work with them. So I'll right click and say create C# script. Let's call this example script. I'm going to right click, create a GUI skin, say new GUI, there we go, and I'm going to bring in a file from another window here. I'll right click and just click and drag. I'm going to import a texture file. There we go, the dirty tiles texture, and can't show that to you. Oh, there you go, a little bit bigger, there you go. So we have a texture here as well. Now let's right click and create a new material. So let's call this dirty tile material. Okay, so as we know, our materials are going to go in the materials folder, obviously, and our textures are going to go in the textures folder. And what we're going to do is, let's go ahead and just start with that. We'll drag those in. But we know that our materials are really consistent of our textures. So it kind of makes sense that we're going to put our textures in our materials folder. So now to get into that, we just double click on a folder and it will bring us into the contents, and you'll notice our path here is updating, so assets, materials. If we wanted to go back to the original, we could click assets and we go all the way back to the original. So I could go materials, textures, and work with all my textures here, and you see my path has updated. So if I go to my materials, I'm going to click here and say for the albedo, I click the little circle with the dot in it, and it will show me all my available textures in the whole scene, the whole project rather. So I'll click the dirty tiles, and there we go. So we have our dirty tiles. Excellent. So our material is all set now, and it's being fed by textures from its subfolder. So we can have that hierarchical organization without having to have so many folders and so much mess. Okay, so from our main assets folder here, I'm going to obviously put the script in the scripts folder, the UI in the UI folder. Now, let's go ahead and save our scene. So save scene as. And you'll notice when this comes up, here it is, my username, my documents, Pilgrimage Setup, that's the name of our Unity project, assets, so it's treating this just like a folder structure, just like Windows. So I say, okay, in scenes, let's call this startup. There we go. Now you'll notice the folders that have things in them have become the flat folder, I call it, and folders like the models folder, which doesn't have anything in it, is like an open folder. So this is a great way to look quickly and see what has content and what doesn't. So if I double click into my scenes folder, you'll notice we have the startup. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have our first scene put away in our scenes folder, let's go ahead and create a second scene. So I'm going to go up here and say file, new scene, sorry. Now we're in a brand new scene, and you'll notice that up here at the top it tells us our project and untitled. That's the name of the scene that we're in right now. So I'm just going to create a bunch of stuff. Let's say 3D object cube, cubes for days, Cubes everywhere. Everybody gets a cube. Let's rotate it. There we go. Just so it's recognizable that this is definitely not our first scene. Now let's do a scene save as. And let's call this cubes. And we put that in our scenes folder. Save. Now you'll notice when we go to our scenes folder, we have 2 scenes. And you can quickly tell that we're actually switching between them by double clicking because the cubes go away. Now, the important thing to note about scenes, if you're not familiar with Unity too much yet, or if you don't know what a scene is, think of a scene kind of like a level for your game. And by a level, I mean, even if you have an area that you go through a door and you go into an entirely new level that is the interior of the room, that would be a new scene in Unity. So that's how we can organize these things. And you can always create subfolders in here to say like folder area 1. And if you know that both of these are part of area 1, you can put them in there. So now it's, you know, nice and organized and we know exactly where everything is. All right, now that we have that, we just have a few more subfolders and I want to show you how I organize things just a little bit further and then you'll be all set. So under my models folder, I'm going to create a folder and call this Max. I'm going to go back and under my textures folder, which is in materials, textures, I'm going to create a folder. I'll call this PS. So this is my Photoshop folder. This is where I put all of my raw textures in their PSD format. The layers are still intact. Everything is non-destructive. And then once I'm done and happy with it, I will save out a file into this textures folder here that is the flattened, ready to go texture. So I directly put all of my Photoshop files in this folder. Now this folder, as we saw earlier, has an actual Windows path to it. It's just like a folder on any other computer. So that's what I do, and then I do the same thing under models in my Max folder. This is my folder for all of my 3ds Max files. So when I'm working on the whole game or just a character, I put all those files in here. And the reason being is if I go to my documents, let's bring up my documents folder, and you'll notice Pilgrimage setup. So here we are. This is the path directly to this Unity project. So now what I can do is, if I look into my assets, here's everything I just talked about under my models, Max folder, see? So all of my Max files would be stored here. The reason I do this, and there are better and other organization systems out there, this is the one that I'm comfortable with, so you're free to mimic this or make changes. I'm open to suggestions if there's a better way, or you have a better way, you have things that you do that you think work better, and it's a better process, let me know. I'm happy to change. But now, if I were to save out this entire project, I have everything. I have all of the Unity stuff to make the game work. I have all of the textures. I have all of the Max files, absolutely everything that I need to make it work. And then I can take all of this and put it in source control. I can take all of this and save it to multiple areas, make sure I don't lose it in crashes and such. And everything is safe, and I'm working on my game, not a care in the world. The last little step I wanted to show you was under the audio folder, for any of you audiophiles out there. I do create some subfolders here. I do an SFX for sound effects, and under audio I also make a folder for music. Now the reason why I differentiate, because a sound effect would be like the little click noise when you click on a UI item. Music obviously would be background music. And then inside each of these folders, this is where you can get really crazy. I create new folders, so under sound effects I would say for characters, create another one that is specifically for UI. So what I would recommend though is for the UI, put SFX in the name, because when you're looking at your total project folder, you will differentiate between the UI itself and the audio SFX UI as well. Just in case things get pushed around, I want to make sure it's very clear. So that's it really, guys. You just put things in these folders. Let me know if you have suggestions for additional folders. If you organize it differently, let me know. And you can also see everything over here, by the way. My logo is covering it just a little bit, but all the things are expandable and all the twisties. I love the twisties. It makes it nice and easy and compact. So again, if you have a better suggestion, if you have other ways you do it, let's share, let's compare notes, and maybe together we can find like the ultimate organizational structure. And so I'm excited for that. Hope this guide has helped you guys. Again, let me know if you have any questions, any further episodes, anything you really want to see. I'm going to be doing a lot more with Unity now that I have the ability to record the whole screen and it doesn't cut off my menus. So I have to go for now, guys, but I hope you have enjoyed very much. And as always, please keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.